Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to the course on comprehensive view of speech processing. So, today's lecture will be the lecture 3. So, in last 2 lectures, we covered some part of the introductory to this course, and today we will try to complete the introduction part, and also we will try to discuss a part of speech production perception mechanisms. So, in last 2 lectures, we covered the objective of the course at a very broader level, and then we defined a speech, and then what is speech processing, and we gave the distinction between a speech processing by humans and a speech processing by machines. Then we discussed about the applications of speech processing. Afterwards, we discussed the how do we implement those applications, or how do we develop those applications, because to incorporate or to carry out those applications. So, the input is the only speech signal, but we have various applications or various speech tasks to be performed, like speech recognition, speaker recognition, language identification, speech enhancement, speech coding. Likewise, we have various speech tasks meant for different applications, but the input is the only speech signal. So, that means using a speech signal we need to perform various speech tasks. So, in that context, how do we carry out various applications using a single using the speech signal? So, that we had discussed, and to know about or to take care about the above topics, to understand the above topics, like for example, to understand what do you mean by speech processing, and to carry out how do we incorporate these, or how do you develop these speech applications. So, for that we have proposed the course under the 4 different parts. So, that way we discussed the scope of the course in the last lecture at a very broader level. So, today we will discuss again the scope of the course, slightly more detailed one, a finer level, and afterwards we discuss the assignments that can be carried out along with the course for better understanding, which provides you the hands-on experience, and better visualization and better appreciation of the course can be can takes place when you carry out the assignments in parallel to the coverage of the course content. And finally, we complete this introductory part by providing the textbooks and appropriate reference materials and so on. So, the scope of the course as here mentioned under the 4 heads. So, like the overall course was divided into 4 parts. So, the first one is the introductory and acoustic phonetics, where we provide you the appropriate background or introduction to the course, that we almost done, and then we discuss about the acoustic phonetics. It basically deals with, because the speech is nothing but the acoustic signal which emitted from our oral cavity. So, these acoustic pressure variations represents the sound units, the sequence of sound units, and here under these acoustic phonetics we will try to see, we will try to discuss about how the sound units that are produced from the oral cavity, but are produced from the speech production mechanism with the different constraints. So, how they are reflected, how they are observed in the acoustic signal. So, but the acoustic signal we cannot visualize. So, therefore, this acoustic signal will be converted to the electrical signal using a microphone, and then this from the electrical signal, by displaying the electrical signal in time domain, or by transforming the electrical signal into the frequency domain, we can able to visualize what are the constraints that are responsible for production of different sounds, how they are manifested in the signal. So, that you can able to observe in the acoustic phonetics. And along with that, in acoustic phonetics we also discuss about what is the contribution of the vocal tract system, and what is the contribution of excitation source, and what are the different types of excitations and characteristics of systems, and all these things we try to discuss in the acoustic phonetics. And this is very important because in our speech production mechanism, the way the articulators will move or the way the articulators will act during the production of various sounds. So, the how they manifested in the signal, and with that we can able to discriminate different sounds or discriminate the different activities in a speech. So, that will be useful for performing various speech tasks and all. So, that way we discuss the acoustic phonetics from the time domain and frequency domain representations. Then after covering the acoustic phonetics, it basically how the sound units what are the various events that takes place for production of sound units, how they manifest or how they are observed in the speech signal. So, that is basically about acoustic phonetics. And after covering that, we discuss about speech signal processing and analysis methods. This I just mentioned that because the speech signal is basically acoustic signal, and for handling that by machines, we cannot handle that directly by machines. So, therefore, we first acquire that signal. For that we use a microphone, and after that still it is analog signal, we are using A to D converter for converting to digital. Then we can store the signal in a computer. Then afterwards, if you want to analyze the signal, we use appropriate signal processing methods for analysis, because this analysis is required, because using a speech signal we need to perform various speech tasks. So, from the speech signal we need to analyze, or we need to see how where the information related to sound units that is present, and how to characterize the sound units, or how to characterize the speaker specific information or a language specific information, or how do we discriminate the speech versus non-speech or speech versus noise. All this information that need to be characterized appropriately to perform various speech tasks. For that we need to analyze the speech signal either in the time domain or in any transform domain, and from that, once you analyze that, we can able to identify, we can able to determine the distinct information that is present in a speech signal in the form of appropriate features. And then from the once you identify the features, so by using appropriate feature extraction techniques, we can able to derive the features, and later it can be used for further processing of speech. So, in that context, we discuss about the speech signal processing and analysis methods. Then after covering that, we discuss about the speech modeling techniques. So, here in the just before that, we discussed about speech analysis and the processing method. So, with that we identify, from that we come to know that, so from the speech signal, how do you characterize or how do you derive the features that are focused or emphasize mainly sound units, and how do you characterize the features that are related to the speaker style or speaker characteristics, or how do you derive the features from the speech signal which mainly quantify the language specific information. So, likewise, using appropriate feature extraction techniques or signal processing techniques, we can able to derive the appropriate features. Then using those features, we need to build the models, different models for performing various speech tasks. For example, if you want to perform a speech recognition, we need to build a model where the extracted features are used to discriminate or to classify the sound units, or to identify the sound units from the speech signal and all. That means, given a speech signal, from that you need to extract the sound specific features. With that, we need to identify or determine what are the sequence of sounds that are present in the given speech signal. So, the same way, suppose for example, if the task is a speaker recognition or a speaker verification. So, in that case, from the given speech signal, we need to extract the features which are more relevant for characterizing the speaker specific information, and use those features. We have to build the appropriate models, so that the models can able to discriminate the speakers who has spoken the content, speech signal and all. And the same way, the language identification also. From the given speech signal, we need to identify a language. So, for that we need to build the models with respect to each language by using appropriate features, and then the speech signal is fed to these language models, and with that we can able to determine the given speech belongs to which language it is, and later it can be used for later tasks like for example speech recognition and so on. So that way in the case of speech modeling techniques, so we will try to build the speech models for performing various speech tasks, and for that the input it requires the input from the feature extraction modules which we have discussed earlier. And once after covering the speech modeling techniques, finally we will discuss about various speech systems. That means here it's a complete system, or like the prototype system which can be deployable later on in the practical environments or practical situations. So this is a complete system. It is nothing but integration of the above said the modules techniques, which involves the pre-processing that is given by the speech signal processing or signal processing techniques, and by using analysis methods and all you can able to derive the features, that means the feature extraction techniques, then speech modeling techniques, all of them will be integrated. We will build a system, end-to-end system, and with that you can develop a prototype system, and these systems will be later on deployed for practical applications and all. And under these speech systems we will discuss about various speech systems such as speech coder, speech recognition, speech synthesis, speaker recognition, language identification system, speech enhancement system, and so on. So that way the overall course was divided into the 4 parts, and the detailed contents of the individual module or individual part is given over here. Here the contents were given in the modularized way. So the idea is that here it is given the course can be covered in 12 weeks under these 12 modules. Here as we have shown here, this slide is just a bit expanded version of the previous slide, where you can able to see the details whatever I just mentioned. Under the first part, where introductory, it is divided into 2 modules like introduction and acoustic phonetics. So introduction is almost covered. We will discuss the acoustic phonetics later on from the later part of this slides, and then afterwards speech processing and speech analysis. Here it was given under the 4 modules like representation and processing of a speech, speech analysis using time frequency techniques, linear prediction analysis of speech, vector quantization, distortion measures, and so on. Likewise, the speech modeling techniques are further expanded using with the more detailed versions like statistical pattern recognition, probability density estimation, Gaussian mixture models, and so on. And likewise, speech systems also have been given the more detailed versions and all. Yeah, the next thing, the final part of this introductory will be like assignments, and here I just for a better understanding of this course, along with the course by taking these lectures along with that, if you can able to do it, practice the course by using these assignments, short assignments, which gives you the hands-on for implementation of the various speech systems later on. And not only that, they are by carrying out these assignments along with the course contents as and when the contents are covered. So immediately if you can able to perform this assignment on your own, so then it gives you a better feel or better understanding of the course contents, and it will be useful for later for carrying out a research in speech processing, where you can able to, even if you want to develop some systems also, you can able to do it with this knowledge and all. And here under this I gave the around 20 assignments, where if you just go through that, like the first one is very introductory one, where the familiarity with the speech recording, playback, and editing software. So first of all, just to get, because the speech as a human we will produce the speech is acoustic signal, but to process the speech by machines, so it has to be captured, it has to be acquired properly. and afterwards it has to be converted to digital, then the digital version of the signal has to be handled by the machines. So, for that the first experiment, the first assignment is just very simpler one, is just to how to record the speech, because the speech is produced by human using this as acoustic pressure variations, and you can able to capture that, or you can able to acquire the speech using a mic. So, therefore, how do you record that? So, what are the commands that are used to, like using a mic, how do you record the speech, like and then afterwards once you recorded the speech signal using a mic, then how do you play back, right, and how do you edit the signal. So, these things, for this assignment you can make use of some speech editing software. There are various speech editing techniques, methods that are available in public domain, and one of them is something is like a wave surfer. It's a tool where it's publicly available in both the Windows and Linux versions and all. So, one can able to download that, and with that, using that tool with a laptop or with a desktop system and all, you can able to record the speech. Whereas, in case of a laptop, you have a built-in microphone. So, there is no need for the exclusive microphone is required. So, from the built-in microphone itself, you can able to record using that tool, wave surfer and all. Likewise, we have we have sono visualizer, and there are different prot, like there are various tools that are available. So, with that you can able to carry out the first assignment and all. You can able to record it, and then after you record that, you can able to display that, and you can able to see that signal in the time domain, and after that, if you want, you can play that. You can that means whatever you have recorded, you can able to hear the same thing, and then you can also like do some the modifications or do some editing thing. You can do it. That means, for example, if you record a speech signal of a sentence, it's about 5 seconds or 10 seconds and all. So, when you record it with the different sampling rates, so the signal, when you try to display that, you may not see the final details of the signal and all. So, if you want to see the final details, for example, if you want to visualize a particular sound unit, how it is actually recorded, how the signal waveform looks like and all, if you want that, then you can able to zoom out certain portions of the signal, or zoom in or zoom out options are there. So, likewise, there are various options in that software or in that particular tool. One can able to explore that by exercising the tool. So, it's a very naive one, the simpler one, to get a feel for how the acoustic signal is captured by using a mic, and how it will be displayed, played back, and how do we can able to do different operations on that, editing operations. Then the second experiment is on related to sampling and quantization, because as I mentioned that when you record a speech signal through a mic, it's like analog signal, but you cannot handle the analog signal by machines, by computer. So, therefore, you need to convert that analog to digital. So, in the process of converting analog to digital, you will come across the process of sampling and quantization, and here in this study, in this particular assignment, you are supposed to play with the sampling and quantization. That means by varying the sampling rate, how the signal looks like, and how the signal play, if you play the signal by modifying the sampling rate, and how the signal when you play back, how the signal sounds like, is there any variation. So, that way, by varying the quantization also. So, we'll discuss about how the sampling, what will be the sampling and quantization very briefly later on. So, you can able to study, or you can once after covering that particular topic, if you do this assignment on this sampling and quantization, it means suppose when you record a speech signal with a certain sampling rate, and afterwards if you modify the sampling rate, whether either by increasing or decreasing, then if you play back, then how the signal sounds like, whether it sounds like the earlier one or it's very varying and all. So, all those things you can able to analyze using this particular assignment. And the third one is like recording and analysis of speech sounds. It's nothing but it's basically related to this acoustic phonetics. Under the acoustic phonetics, as a part of theory, we'll study about how this acoustic signal represents the sound units and all. And here in this particular assignment, whatever we study here in the theory, we will try to analyze that in the time domain or in the frequency domain, how each sound unit characterizes, or the properties of sound units, how they reflect in the speech signal in the time and frequency domains. So those things you can able to observe in this particular assignment. And along with that, here we will try to analyze the contribution of the vocal tract system. That means in the particular given sound unit, what is the contribution of the vocal tract system, or what are the properties of vocal tract system that are reflected. And similarly, the excitation source, how it is reflected in the signal. So those concepts also we can able to analyze or observe in this particular assignment. Then the time domain analysis of speech, the same thing. That means once you capture the speech signal, then if you display in a time domain, then what are your observations, right? Sometimes the signal may be periodic, sometimes the signal maybe appears to be noisy, sometimes the signal amplitude is very high. So all these things you can able to observe in a time domain signal, and from that you can able to make out some observations over that. And fifth and sixth assignments are related to the spectral analysis. It means once you capture the signal in a spectral domain, what are your observations? What are your observations? For that, to analyze the spectral properties of a speech signal, we will use the STFT, that means short time Fourier transform is applied. So with that, the time domain signal will be transformed into frequency domain using short time Fourier transform. We will see that what is meant by short time Fourier transform, why it is required. So all those things we will see. So that will be about fifth, sixth. Then the seventh one is analysis part. That means there are different analysis techniques with which you can analyze the speech signal. One of them is the sinusoidal analysis. So here in this, the idea is that speech signal is a combination of some predominant sinusoidal signals and all. So therefore here we will analyze the speech and we will try to identify what are the various sinusoidals that are contributing to that particular speech signal and all. And then later on in the synthesis part, whatever those sinusoids that were observed in the analysis phase, and we will try to regenerate that, and we will try to mixing all those sinusoidals. We will see that whether the reproduced signal sounds like a previous one or not, sounds like original speech or not. So that is one of the analysis technique. And another very popular analysis technique is the linear prediction analysis of speech. So here also we will try to analyze the speech signal in the form of source and system configuration, right? And we will try to parameterize using this linear prediction analysis, and we will analyze, and as well we can synthesize the speech also using these parametric approaches and all. Then the capsular analysis of speech, this is also one of the analysis technique, and this analysis technique is useful for separating the vocal tract system and source, excitation source. For that purpose, this capsular analysis will be used, and using appropriate techniques one can able to carry out these assignments. And similarly, estimation of pitch and formats. Here the pitch means it is related to, we can able to observe that in the time domain signal, whereas the formats means those things that these are the nothing but the dominant frequency components or the frequencies that are observed in the signal in the frequency domain. So that way these two, how do we determine those things, how do you estimate them, from the pitch and formats from the speech, that also can be done by using as a part of the assignment, because these things we will study in the as part of in analysis, speech analysis, and in the part 2 of this course. So simultaneously once you cover that, then if you can able to carry out the assignments related to that, then you can have a better understanding, or whatever you learned in the theory, it will be reinforced. Then the synthesis of vowels is also the similar thing, because when you are trying to produce the vowel like a or e something, then first of all we will analyze that sound unit, and from that we will try to identify that what are the dominant frequencies and what is the pitch of this particular vowel when you are uttering, and by using these attributes we will try to synthesize back. So that is about the synthesis of vowels and all. Then the other assignments are here, like voiced unvoiced detection. We will see that in the later classes. We will come to know about what is meant by voiced speech, what is unvoiced speech, how do we detect that. So once you cover that, after that if you if you analyze the speech signal in view of this particular assignment, from this assignment, it will be very clear to you whatever you studied in the class about voice. Similarly, then afterwards the vowel recognition, as you are aware that there are 5 basic vowels like A, E, A, E, O. So, these 5 vowels, how do you recognize that, how do you discriminate that using appropriate features and modeling techniques and all. So, when you are covering the modeling techniques, so we discuss about various modeling techniques like Gaussian mixture models, vector quantization, hidden Markov models, k nearest neighbor and so on. So, the same vowel recognition technique, we will try to see that how do we can discriminate the vowels using different modeling techniques and all, because all these are classifiers are discriminators. So, therefore, after learning the theory related to these modeling techniques, we will try to like get a hands-on of implementation of these modeling techniques by carrying out the experiment on the vowel recognition and all, right. Then similarly, then after that, once the modeling techniques have been practiced, then one can able to build a system like end-to-end system, prototype system, like the speech recognizer or like speaker recognition or sound or like language identification and so on. So, all these things one can able to build like the systems can be like, it is not that you cannot you may not build the a complete system like versatile system, but will try to one can able to try to build with in a limited domain. For example, your idea is to build a speech recognizer for 10 words for numbers, for example. That means your system has to recognize the numbers like 0 to 9, 0, 1, 2, 3 up to 9 and all, right. So, that way you can able to that way after you discuss about after you practice with the speech models, then you can able to build these systems, complete systems, like a speech recognizer, where you can carry out a simple system digit recognizer, which the system can able to discriminate or recognize the numbers or digits from 0 to 9. Likewise, for example, speaker recognition, you can able to perform a speaker recognition study. So, in your home, like at your house, like your family members, like suppose you have 5 or 6 family members in your house, you try to collect the samples from them and try to build a system where the system can able to recognize like your family members based on their speech samples. So, the same way for language identification and finally the speech enhancement and all. The speech enhancement, here the task is to you have to build a system where if you give a noisy speech as input, so it has to reduce the noise or have to like minimize the noise and enhance the speech, and have to the output expected to be a clean speech and all. Because the speech enhancement module is very useful for most of our for building any of the speech system and all, we expect a clean speech, but in general the speech that will be captured for the practical applications or in different practical scenarios, it may not be clean speech, it may have different captured under different environments. So, therefore, the speech enhancement is like the necessary as a front end to clean the speech, and then the clean speech is used for further processing for building the other speech tasks. So, these are the like 20 assignments I just listed out. So, this is you have to do it on your own, but with the help of like you can able to do it these assignments using a MATLAB, and like for some of them even the codes is also available in the different toolboxes, they are available in the public domain also. So, you can or some of these assignments also like they are also available in the public domain. So, you can use that and afterwards you learn it and then you try to do it on your own, so that you can able to understand this course in a very better in a best way. We will try to see that in the as a part of the course after covering the contents. If you have enough time, then we will try to explain how to like carry out some of these assignments.
So, so far when you are discussing about speech processing along with these theory lectures for better understanding, so it is better to conduct some basic speech experiments with which one can able to get a better feel and hands on experience on the dealing with the speech signals. So, in view of that, I suggest to visit the website at IIT Hyderabad, where they have like developed 10 experiments on speech, and they are available in the form of virtual lab. And so you can visit this website and you can download those experiments to your local machine, and you can able to practice on your own. And here the clear directions are given, and you can please go through that, and you can able to practice on your own, and with which you will get a clarity on whatever you are discussing in these theory lectures. You will get a better clarity and better understanding of the contents whatever we are covering in these video lectures and all. And here in this context, I want to introduce the two more speech analysis tools that are publicly available in the internet. So, one of them is a wave surfer and other one is the PROT. So, these two tools, the speech analysis tools that are available in the internet at these URLs, you can able to download these two from these by accessing these URL, and you can download to your local machine, and then you can able to practice. So, by using these softwares, by using this speech analysis softwares, you can able to capture the speech signals, you can able to display the speech signal in time and frequency domain, and also you can able to visualize the various characteristics of a speech signal such as spectrogram, the pitch contours, energy contours, and so on.
Then the course content, whatever I just mentioned, and the scope of the course and all. So, the course content is available from these textbooks and some journal papers and conference papers and all. And here I just listed some 8 textbooks, and out of that the first textbook will cover almost like 50 to 60% of the content whatever will cover under this course. Like fundamentals of speech recognition by Reminer and Jong. Then the other textbooks also, they contains like the speech processing and analysis techniques and all will be covered by Reminer and Schaefer, like digital processing of speech signals, and Shaughnessy, the third book, speech communication, where the speech coding related details I may follow from this book. But all the textbooks covers the more or less the details of speech processing, but for some books they emphasize a particular topics very detailed way. So, that way I just listed out these books, and for this course I may mainly use the first book and the third book and also the 7th book also. That is the Springer Handbook on Speech Processing. So, this book is edited by these 3 authors like Benstey, Sonthi and Huang. So, actually this book is published in 2008. So, till that whatever the speech research or the speech related research outcome was there, so that was provided in this book, and this book is authored by the experts in that in the respective areas of the speech processing and all. And along with these textbooks, one can able to refer, or these are the references. Like in this, I just give the 6 venues where you can able to get the material related to speech processing. Out of that, the first 4 are related to the journal publications, like the journals, and the last 2 are the conferences and all. So, among these, the first one is IEEE Transactions on Audio, Speech and Language Processing, and this is very reputed journal where the speech related research activity, whatever it will be, people the researchers used to try to publish in this journal, and it's very highly reputed journal and all. And then there are 2 elsewhere journals I have given, Speech Communication and Computer Speech and Language. They are also good journals. And the 4th one is the JASA, Journal of Acoustic Society of America, and where this particular, the 4th journal is very good one, and they used to focus more on the fundamentals of speech processing. Whereas the other 3 journals and all, they will try to see a very broader perspective. So, where if you want to publish the research related to speech, you need to extensively carry out various experiments on the sufficiently large databases and all. Whereas in case of fourth journal, if the result is very fundamental result, then you need not explore it on a very huge databases and all. So, in that context, the fourth journal is nice, where if the result is very fundamental, then you can able to do it, can able to show it illustratively with a few speech samples, and with that the people will, if they convince, then they can able to publish the paper. So, that way there are the 4 journals, and the other 2 or the last 2 are the conference publications, where these conference publications, where the first one is, the 5th one is ICASP, it's an IEEE International Conference on Acoustic Speech Signal Processing. And here in this conference, about 30% or 40% of the content is related to speech, and the other 60% will be related to signals. That signals will be either maybe the image or video or the biomedical and other signals also. So, that way the ICASP is one of the very good conference, and it's about from last 40 years this conference is going on, annual conference, and whatever the latest research related to speech you can able to observe here. And the exclusive conference on the speech processing is the International Conference on Speech Processing. It's not to be interspeech, it's not to be interspeech, and this is also annual conference, but here this conference is highly focused on speech processing, speech and language processing basically. So, if you want to see any latest literature or latest works on speech processing, so first you can see the conferences, then afterwards you can able to see the journals and all. And here, as part of this course, we will refer some of the contents of this course from the journal publications. There are some IEEE journal publications, old publications are there. For example, linear prediction analysis and all. So, we can the material we will borrow from the journal publication from IEEE. It's in and another topic also, like hidden Markov models also. So, that is also written by the Rebener, that is also a journal publication, IEEE and all. So, for those 2 topics the contents will be covered taken from these particular journal communications. So, with this we more or less we covered the introductory part of this course. Then we move on to the next part, that is speech production perception mechanisms. So, before going to that, let us just see that as a fundamental to the speech processing we have covered. So, if you look at here in this list, we covered the first 3 topics, like what is speech, why speech processing is required, and speech processing and its applications. These things we had discussed as a part of introductory, and the later contents we will try to discuss in this today's presentation as well as in the following lectures and all. So, you can see that the next one is the elements of speech communication, we will see that, and afterwards we will discuss about human speech production perception mechanism, because before going to the details or before knowing about acoustic phonetics, how speech sounds are manifested in acoustic signal, first of all we should know about the details about the speech production perception from a human counterpart, from a human perspective. That means, as a human, how the speech is produced by human, and what are the various articulators or apparatus that are involved in that, how they are produced. And then after knowing this one, then we will try to see that how this production mechanism is reflected in the speech signal, because from the speech signal the machines has to process that, and with that they also come to know about like how the speech sounds are manifested. So, with that they can later on the machine tries to mimic the human in the context of both speech production as well as speech perception also. So, that way we will study about speech production and perception from a human perspective, how the speech is produced by humans and how the speech is perceived by the humans and all, right. and afterwards we will study about, after knowing that, then we will discuss about acoustic phonetic characterization of a speech. That means from the acoustic signal, how the acoustic properties or how the acoustic characterization of the different sounds that are observed in the sound. So, those things we will try to discuss. Then the language constraints, we already discussed about a bit of language, influence of language on speech processing as a part of introductory, and here we will try to discuss about how the language constraints dictates the speech, how they influence the speech and speech processing. Then later on we will see that what are the various knowledge sources present in a speech, because as we have already observed, already come to know that by this time a speech signal contains multiple informations, right. Information related to the sounds, basic sounds, information related to the speaker related information is there, language related information, linguistic related information, and there are various other information like different emotions you can able to observe from the speech, and it also contains the environment also. So, likewise there are various information that are present in a speech signal. We will try to see that how do we can capture that information, various information that are present in a speech signal, like what are, first of all what are those, and how do we can able to capture with a speech processing techniques and all. Then finally we will see that very briefly about the history of a speech processing and all, very briefly, like how this is evolved. So, when it was started and what is the current scenario, and preceding that how it has been evolved over a period of time and all. Then coming to the various elements in speech communication, as we have seen from a human perspective, here the speech communication takes place between a talker and a listener. Here the talker is like the person who initiates the speech, or who who creates the speech. You want to convey some message, then the talker will be active and he creates a speech according to the message you want to convey that, and then that results in the form of acoustic signal, and that propagates through air, and then the intended listener will receive that acoustic pressure variations, and then by using our hearing mechanism and the higher centers of the brain, we can able to interpret. So, that way from a human perspective, the speech communication is in between a talker and a listener, and the acoustic signal will be propagated, and that will be like emitted from a talker, and that will be received by the listener and all. So, the analogous one in the from electrical counterpart, or from our radio communication, what we are very familiar with, that will be like we have a transmitter, a receiver through a medium. That means our radio communication, for example, you have a radio transmitter. So, where the message whatever you want to broadcast, so that will be broadcasted using a transmitter with techniques, appropriate techniques, not be modulation and so on. So, with the transmitter the message will be broadcasted, and that will be received by the receivers. That means all our radio receivers, FM or AM, whatever receivers and all, by properly tuning to the appropriate frequency, you can able to receive the message from a corresponding radio stations and all, whatever the radio stations, because there is not one radio broadcasting, there are several broadcast stations used to be there. So, therefore, a radio station or the receiver, by tuning the appropriate frequency range, you can able to receive the message or receive the information from appropriate radio station and all. So, that is about the electrical counterpart. So, we will see the details of these things more in the later slides. So, now the speech production perception. So, here the same thing whatever we discussed in the previous slide as a part of speech communication, from the perspective of humans, here I just expanded that diagram, expanded that speech communication chain further. From the speech production perspective, you can see that the talker here from that means, as I mentioned, that the person who want to convey the message, he initiates the production of a speech. So, from a speech production, you can see that the various steps that are present in a speech production are mentioned over here in the top block diagram, And here first of all the talker, the message will be formulated. It's nothing but, suppose if you want to convey some message, if you want to speak to somebody, the message will be formulated inside the brain. That's a very abstract form. Then afterwards, based on the target person or with whom you have to speak or with whom you want to convey the message, based on that the message will be coded in the appropriate language, whether it may be like your mother tongue or it may be some other foreign language, whatever. It will be coded in the appropriate language based on the intended person with whom you want to convey the message and all. So here the choice of a language, then the message coding. Here the message coding is nothing but a sequence of words that need to be communicated, that need to be speak, right. So a sequence of words, and again each word contains a sequence of sounds, that we know that, right. So that way here the message coding and language in the appropriate language, that will be done. And then as once the message is coded, it's nothing but the sequence of words that are available inside the brain, then they have to be spoken. And each word, we know that there are a sequence of sounds and all. And for uttering each sound, our vocal tract system, where the organs that are present in the vocal tract system are oral cavity or our vocal apparatus, they have to move in an appropriate way, so that the different sounds will be produced and all. So therefore, as per the after message coding, based on the word to be spoken, and again the word consists of whatever the sound unit sequence of sounds. So as per accordingly, the neuromuscular commands will be initiated from the brain, and these neuromuscular commands will be initiated to move the vocal organs accordingly, right. Suppose for example, if you want to produce ah, for example, ah, where you have to open the vocal tract very wider way, ah, and for that again the excitation will be, the vocal folds has to vibrate, and then that becomes excitation, and this excitation will propagate through your vocal tract system. So for that you have to widely open the oral cavity, and you have to excite that oral cavity with the vocal folds vibration and all. And to operate that, or to vibrate those vocal folds, or to open your mouth, so for all of them you have the neuromuscular commands, or in the form of nerve impulses will be generated, and that will initiate the oral cavity, and with that the sound will be produced. So this is whereas in the you can see here the message, nothing but is abstract form. Then the language coding will be done, that is nothing but the words will be formed, and according to the words the nerve impulses will be generated, and these nerve impulses will like initiate or will excite the this vocal tract system and the associated organs and all. So that will move, that's nothing but a mechanical motion, and with that the sound signal will be produced, that is acoustic pressure variations will be produced, that's nothing but your speech. And coming to the listener perspective, so these are the sequence of actions that takes place. So in the speech signal is nothing but the speech that is produced by the talker. So that's nothing but acoustic pressure variations, and these acoustic pressure variations are required because with that it can able to propagate through air through some distance based on the energy that is imposed on these acoustic pressure variations. So where the speech can be heard, or speech can be travel through air through some distance, where the listener can able to interpret, listener can able to hear that voice or can able to interpret the message. So therefore this from listener perspective, the speech that is produced by the talker, so that will be received by the listener by using our hearing mechanism, that means ear and then the internals of the hearing mechanism. So it's not to be speech perception, and this hearing mechanism will transform these acoustic pressure variations or the speech into like the nerve impulses, right, speech to nerve impulses, and then the speech to nerve impulses, these nerve impulses are again sent to the higher centers of a brain, and where the message comprehension or message understanding will takes place and all. This is just a reverse phenomena of the speech production and all. In case of speech production, where the message, the initiation or the message formulation takes place in the brain, and then the message coding will be done in appropriate language, and then as per the sound units of the words, then the neuromuscular commands will be generated to activate or to move the various vocal organs or vocal apparatus and all. So, with that the speech is produced, whereas the speech perception is the other way. We will receive the speech by using our hearing mechanism, and then these from the speech the nerve impulses will be appropriate nerve impulses will be generated, and those will be reached to the brain, and then the brain will interpret those nerve impulses, and accordingly the speech will be interpreted or understood by the. So, here these are the sequence of actions here: acoustic pressure variations, then it will be converted to mechanical motion from the inside our hearing ear in the middle ear, and then this mechanical motion will generate the nerve impulses in the inner ear, and then these nerve impulses will be reached to the higher centers of the brain, and with that the language decoding and message comprehension will take place and all. So, we will see these details a bit later. Yeah, then coming to the here speech production mechanism. First we will discuss about speech production, then we will move on to speech perception. And here the speech production for producing the speech, the organs are the various articulators that are involved in the speech will be, like you can see here from this figure. This is a cross sectional view of our speech production apparatus, or you can say that the various articulators, various organs that are involved in speech production mechanism. So, that you can able to observe in this cross sectional view. And here this figure was actually taken from the textbook Rabiner and Jong. So, from this textbook this figure has been taken and is placed in the slide. And here the various organs that are involved here will be, the first one is the lungs assembly, the chest cavity and lungs assembly. So, this provides for production of a speech we require some energy and all. So, that energy will be supported, or the energy will be provided by the lungs assembly, and always the speech will be produced during the exhalation of air, because we involuntarily will breathe, like we will take will inhale the air and then we will exhale the air and all. So, that will takes place all the time, but whenever if we want to speech, the speech will be usually generated or speech is generated during the exhalation of air. That means in our respiration process. So, whenever if you want to speech, the energy that is required for production of a speech will be available or will be obtained from during the exhalation process. That means we do not speak, or the speech cannot be generated from the inhalation process and all. Only the exhalation of air will be used for generation of a speech. It is not that whenever we want to speak, that time that exhalation of air will be used for production of a speech and all. So, that way the lungs assembly and the chest chamber, the chest cavity, so that will be part of a speech production system, where the basic energy that will be given by the exhalation of air. This exhalation of air that will be propagated through our oral cavity, that forms the speech, right. So, that way this lungs assembly will be can be viewed as one of the speech production, the organ that will be used as a part of the system and all. Yeah, you can see here these are the lungs, right, and this is the windpipe, right, and here these are the like vocal folds. We will see that what they are, and so here the space around these vocal folds in the windpipe here, this is known to be the laryngeal cavity and all, laryngeal cavity, and then after that you have this portion known to be the pharyngeal cavity. This is a laryngeal cavity where the vocal folds are present. So, these are the vocal folds, and this is the windpipe known to be trachea. This is the windpipe known to be trachea, and then inside in the trachea the space where the vocal folds are there is known to be the larynx cavity, and then afterwards then here you have, this is the oral cavity. Here, as you know that this is the tongue, right, these are the teeth, and this is your mouth, right, and this is your oral cavity, and then here there is a space between the oral cavity and this laryngeal cavity or vocal folds. So, this is known to be the pharyngeal cavity. We will see that later under pharyngeal cavity, and this is the oral cavity, and here above the oral cavity you can see here. So, this is a nasal cavity, this is a nasal cavity, right, and and this is known to be velum, where this controls the coupling of the nasal cavity and oral cavity and all, whether the nasal cavity can be coupled in the process of speech production or this should be isolated. So, that will be done based on the this velum and all, this velum, right, and here this is the you can see the cross sectional view. This is the speech production. For speech production, these are the various organs that will participate for the speech production. One is the lungs assembly, right, and then this is the windpipe, right, and windpipe to which, and as I mentioned that the exhalation of air will be speech is produced during the exhalation of air and this exhalation of air is propagated through this one like through oral cavity or nasal cavity. Accordingly, different sound units will be produced, and again the simple exhalation of air cannot be resulted as speech, because otherwise we will just all the time we will exhale, will inhale the air and then will exhalation also will be done, but exhalation of air, just simple exhalation of air cannot be produced as speech, and that exhalation of air has to be constrained properly, appropriately, so that with that constriction of the exhalation of air, and that forms the excitation, to the oral cavity, with that the sounds will be produced, and one of that constriction will be carried out by these vocal folds and all. So, these vocal folds are nothing but a kind of muscles which are stretched at this point, and when the exhalation takes place, if the vocal folds vibrates, at that time this free exhalation of air will be constrained. That means normal process, the vocal folds will be opened and then the exhalation of air takes place. But here if you want to constrain the air and if you want to produce the speech for certain sounds, the vocal folds will vibrate. So, it means that the vocal folds will close first, and with that the exhalation of air it stops, and with that below the vocal folds the pressure will be generated, and afterwards the vocal folds where the pressure crosses a threshold, the vocal folds open. The moment once the vocal folds open, then the air will be released. When some air will be released, then again the pressure will decrease, then again vocal folds will be closed. So, that way the vocal folds will be open and close, and that is nothing but will vibrate, opens, closes, opens, closes. So, with that process the air will be that is coming out of the vocal folds will be observed as a narrow pulses and all, and those narrow pulses will be propagated through these oral cavity, right, or a nasal cavity. So, with that the different sound units will be produced and all, different sound units. We will see the details of that, how exactly the different sound units will be produced, because we have about 50 sounds that can be produced from our vocal tract system, vowels, consonants and all of them and all. But how those different sounds are produced using a single speech production mechanism, like we will see that how the details and all in the following lecture and all.
In view of speech production, so far we have discussed in the theory about how the various speech sounds are produced with the help of the excitation source and the vocal tract system, and here for better understanding of the speech production mechanism, so there are animations that are available at the YouTube created, they are available at the YouTube, and you can able to visit these following links, and where you can able to see the animations related to the production of different sound units. So, here you can able to clearly visualize how the various speech sounds are produced, like the vowels, consonants, and again in the consonants there are different types of consonants like voiced stops, unvoiced stops, nasal stops, fricatives. Likewise, each of the sound unit, how they are produced, like for the production of each sound unit. So, what is the excitation source and how it is coupled to the either oral cavity or a nasal cavity, and what are the various articulators that are that are part of the production of the particular sound unit. So, all those things you can able to clearly visualized by in these animations and all. So, in view of that, I recommend to follow these, go through these links, and you can able to see the animation videos. So with that you can get a better picture of picture and understanding about the speech production, particularly to different categories of sound units.